Friends, it's election day in the United States of America. November 5th, the day that we have been waiting for. I don't know about you, but I feel like it's a hurry up and wait day. We are sitting here with some excitement, some nerves, certainly some trepidation, waiting to find out what's going to happen to our country. This is almost the feeling that I've gotten the two different times that I've given birth, where you know your life is about to change. You're about to meet this new person if you give birth. Your life is never going to be the same. And that's how I feel today. I couldn't sleep last night. I spent the night praying instead. I prayed that God would have mercy on our nation, that he would lead Donald Trump to victory, that he would give undecided voters the wisdom and the courage to cast their ballot for Donald Trump. Because make no mistake, this election today is not just about politics. It's not just left versus right. This election is spiritual warfare. You and I are players in a battle of good versus evil. Everything is on the line today. And so I prayed that God would protect our election integrity, that he would give people the courage to choose a candidate that maybe they aligned with a party that they had never voted before, that he would give people the gumption and the energy to go and stand and wait in those voting lines and to report if they see anything shady. That is something that's very important for all of us to remember today. If you are waiting in line at your polling place and you see something out of the ordinary, if you see Republican poll watchers being harassed in some way, you see buckets, baskets, bins of ballots being oddly pulled out of the trunks of cars, if you see anything that causes your red flag to go up and you think, that is not normal, say something. You and I, this election, are the bulwark against voter fraud and electioneering and cheating. You and I, our eyes and our voices. If you see something, you be the journalist. Get out your phone, take a picture of it, video it, confront the person peacefully that you think is behaving in a shady manner, and then report it to election officials, report it to me or to another trusted media person that you know. You and I will be the reason if there is electioneering, which we know there is, we will be the reason that it is not tolerated this election season. Guys, if you have voted, please go into the comment section right here. I'm watching it right now. Tell me if you voted. Tell me if you early voted. Tell me if you voted in person. Tell me if you did a mail in ballot. Tell me if you are going today, if your plan is still to go today, and what state you live in. Mike says, my wife and I have been praying for God's mercy and to give us 4 more years of grace. Amen to that. Sharon says, this time we are better prepared. I hope so. I don't think that the Republican apparatus, the Republican Party, has done everything that we wanted them to do, but I do think since Laura Trump took over as co chair of the RNC, that we are much, much better prepared than we were 4 years ago. A little behind the scenes information. I suppose this is an open secret at this point, but the Trump campaign is very prepared behind the scenes for any lawfare that may be necessary in the coming days and weeks. And I think that is a big differentiating factor compared to what happened in 2020. We were caught off guard, all of us. Not just the Trump campaign, not just the RNC, all of us were caught off guard by what Mark Elias had done in the months leading up to the 2020 election. He had used COVID as this medium to change rules and regulations and even laws around voting in swing states and in swing counties. And we weren't aware that this was happening until it had already happened. And then it, in a sense, was too late to catch it. And the way that it was handled by the Trump campaign and the RNC after that was not the best. It clearly wasn't effective. This time, my friends, it is very different. So, okay, I'm going to read a couple. Guys, you are great. Look at all these voters. Chuck says we voted early in Hamilton, Ohio. Red Dog says voted at City Hall last week in Rhode Island. Back from the Dead says I'm behind enemy lines here in California. Well, God bless you, but make sure you go vote. Johnny said voted the first day here in North Carolina. Navy Chef says voted this Friday, voted for Trump, go Trump. Karen says I early voted Trump 2024. Larry Hogan says Virginia, I voted for Trump. John says, I voted Delaware County, Pennsylvania today. Oh, we have stuff to talk about regarding what's happening in Pennsylvania. We'll get to that in a couple minutes. Jennifer says, voted in person last week. Space says, my wife and I and my triplet boys all voted in Connecticut for Trump today. You have triplets? That's super cool. Super cool. And awesome that you all voted for Trump. Colleen says, I am going today in Illinois. Caden says, I voted through a mail in ballot and dropped it off at my county's ballot box. Wesley says, wife and I are voting after work today in West Virginia. Mike says, my wife and I voted in person early in South Carolina. Guys, I can't even keep up with you. So many people are saying that you voted and you voted early. And I actually love to see how many of you voted early. You know that I was one of the original skeptics of early voting. I did not early vote in 2020 because I don't like election season. I only like election day. But man, we killed it this time with the early voting. And that's the way to compete with Democrats. That's the way to play by rules that maybe we don't agree with. But if we don't play by those rules, we're not going to win. So you guys are awesome. Awesome. Paul says Trump 2024. Central Scrutinizer says I voted for Trump in North Carolina. Tabitha said voted in Texas the first week and the line was the longest I'd ever seen. David says voted in Omaha, Nebraska. Okay, here's the second thing. If you haven't voted, go vote, of course. That's the first thing. The second thing is text a picture of your ballot to your friends, to your family members. Post it on social media. At this point in the election, we are in the final day of the election, and it's not a matter of necessarily convincing Kamala voters to vote Trump or the other side trying to convince Trump voters to vote Kamala. We are now in a get out the vote operation, which means there are a lot of our fellow countrymen and women who don't vote. They just don't do it. They don't request a mail in ballot. They don't go in person to early vote. They don't want to wait in a line. And we need to be that motivating force. We need to provide such enthusiasm and such energy that it motivates them to go out and cast their ballot. So, one of the best ways to do that is actually to ask your friends and family, have you voted? One of the ways that I do that is I take nice little selfie pictures of me and my ballot and I send it to my family and show them that I voted. And it's a fun way to motivate and check in on people to make sure they voted. It makes a difference. Think about some of these swing counties around the country. The difference between a Kamala Harris presidency, God forbid, or a Donald Trump presidency could be just a few votes. So each and every one of your vote matters. Let's go ahead and look at what we are seeing in the polls. So I'm going to bring up here the Real Clear Politics final average of polls, and we're going to look at some swing states here to see what we've got going on. But guys, go ahead and keep posting in the comments. Tell me if you voted, what state you voted in, or if you plan to vote today, and how many family members or friends you've convinced to go vote with you. All right, so the Real Clear Politics national average has Trump at 48.6 and Harris at 48.7. That is Harris advantaged by just 0.1. Now, Real Clear Politics, as I'm sure you know, is an average of the national polls. So each individual poll has a margin of error, and then averaging them has a much larger margin of error. So 0.1, I need not tell you, is a statistical tie. This is something. This is quite something. And we know, and a couple of you, by the way, I'm going to do Trump's the weave for a second. A couple of you after yesterday's episode accused me of being black-pilled because I was talking about this scenario where if the results of the election are not known to us today or even Wednesday or Thursday or Friday, and they're very close, the race is neck and neck, I made a prediction about what Kamala Harris is going to do to steal the election. And some of you said, Liz, hold the black-pilled content at least until Wednesday. And what I would say to you is, I can't. That's what I was thinking yesterday. And so that's what I'm going to talk to you about. But the purpose of all of that, the purpose of talking about what's going to happen if this is neck and neck, is that Donald Trump historically has pulled low. He's historically pulled lower than his performance is on election day. So a statistical tie is most likely to indicate that Trump is ahead. That being said, who believes the polls? Let's look at the swing states here. So Real Clear Politics has the battleground states of Minnesota. Oh, that is, hold on a second, let me get that right thing. Oh, has Georgia, I want to get the closest ones, has Georgia going to Trump 1.3, North Carolina going to Trump 1.2, Pennsylvania going to Trump by 0.4, Michigan going to Harris by point 0.5, Wisconsin going to Harris by point 0.4, Arizona going to Trump by 2.8. To call these close would be the understatement of the year, which again is incumbent on us to get out to vote and to make sure that our friends and family vote the same. There's already some shady stuff that's happening in Pennsylvania specifically. My producer Tim's going to show us some of this stuff on the screen as it comes in, because I know one of the things about today is you wait 5 minutes and the stories are different. The updates in real time are something. So in Pennsylvania, in which county was that in, Tim? It was a swing county in Pennsylvania. Let me bring this up here. Where the Oh, Michael Whatley. Okay, okay. So chair of the RNC, Michael Whatley, he's the co-chair with Laura Trump. He's posting He posted this morning. This is at 6:42 a.m. And he said, Pennsylvania election integrity. Early this morning, we learned that Republican poll watchers in Philadelphia, York, Westmoreland, Allegheny, Lehigh, Cambria, Wyoming, and Lackawanna counties were being turned away. Republican poll watchers only. He said, we deployed our roving attorneys, engaged with local officials, and can now report that all Republican poll watchers have been let into the building. We will keep fighting, keep winning, and keep sharing updates. And I got to tell you, this is one of the most encouraging things that I've seen. We know the Democrats are going to try to cheat. We know it. We know it's going to happen. We know it's happening. But if we are able to see it, expose it, and fix it in real time, it will do worlds. I don't want to promise that it will overcome the cheating because there's no way that I can know that, but we will be doing everything humanly possible to prevent that cheating from happening. There was another county in Pennsylvania, and I'm going to see if I can find which county this is, where the voting machines were down. The voting machines were down, and what happened is, what is this county? Hold on. Oh, it's Cambria. Yep, there it is. You can see it on screen. Okay, the voting machines went down in Cambria County, Pennsylvania, and Kamala Democrats, this is from Mike Davis, he's one of the attorneys, are fighting in court against a mere 3-hour extension to ensure voters can vote. So the polls were supposed to close at 3 hours. When these voting machines went down, a judge immediately ruled that the polling places had to stay open for an additional 3 hours until 10 p.m. And what does Kamala Harris do? Kamala Harris tries to stop the extension of your opportunity to vote in one of the swing counties in Pennsylvania. All this talk, I got to tell you, all of this talk about Donald Trump's character that we hear from the left is remarkable to me when you actually look at the character of Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris claims she's for the working man. She claims she wants to represent disenfranchised voters. She claims she wants to fight against Republican voter suppression. But what do her actions show that she's doing? Her actions show that she is engaging in voter suppression by trying to make your opportunity to vote if you live in Cambria County, Pennsylvania, more limited. She wants to take that away from you because she knows she might lose if you cast your ballot. That is the character of Kamala Harris. All right, so we're looking at these Real Clear Politics numbers. I don't know if polls mean anything or not. I am not just a skeptic of polls in the sense that I think a lot of them are psyops, which I do think that, or biased, which I also think is true. I think both of those things, but I also think if you even take sinister motives out of polling, I am not convinced that it is possible to construct a poll that takes into account every confounding factor. I just don't think it's possible. I don't think that it can be done to get an accurate representation of what people are going to do ahead of what they actually do. Because you don't even get people to respond. I think it was the New York Times poll. I think it was the New York Times poll. I'm going to say it is, but you can fact check me if it was a different poll. But the person running the poll was talking about the response rate of different people. And this is not even a bias issue. And this pollster said we had a 16-point differential between how older Democrat women responded to the poll versus older conservative women did not. So if you've gotten those text messages, I assume I've gotten them before too, that says, hey, we'd like to poll you. Well, liberal women apparently answer those texts and conservative women apparently don't. And maybe I know the plural of anecdote is not data, but I've never once answered one of those polls. Not because I have anything against them per se or participating. I just don't always have time for it. So that in and of itself would cause that poll to be biased. It's just inaccurate because the people that are voting aren't responding to your poll. So how do you know how they're going to vote? All that being said, do these polls mean anything? I don't know. Probably not. Elon Musk had a very interesting statistical analysis that I'm going to bring up here about the early vote numbers. We all want. Oh, where is this? Goodness, for goodness sake. We all want. Save this tweet. This is what happens when stuff is breaking in real time. Sometimes you save something and you don't know where it is. Tim's faster than I am. It's on screen. Okay. That's not the same one, but that works. So the tweet that I'm talking about, I'll just explain what it is. The tweet that I'm talking about is he took data. It's the delta between how many Republicans early voted in 2020 and how many Democrats early voted in 2020. And the delta, the difference in the numbers between the two, shows that Democrat numbers oftentimes decrease and Republican numbers exploded. So there have been exponentially more Republican voters that voted early voting this time compared with in 2020. Now, there could be a couple of reasons for this. This doesn't necessarily indicate for certain that this is a Donald Trump blowout. It's also probably because, it's certainly because, we just don't know to what extent, because Republicans have made an effort, the Republican apparatus has made an effort to communicate to Republican voters how important it is for them to cast their ballots in early voting. That's certainly a factor. I don't think it's the only factor. I think the second factor is enthusiasm for Donald Trump and wanting to elect him and wanting to avoid some of the election integrity pitfalls that we suffered from in 2020. The question, of course, the unknown is, well, do these early voting numbers that were so positive for Republican, is it mostly because Republican Party was able to convince people to go out and vote, and these are the high propensity voters that were going to cast their ballots anyway on election day? Or are these people who were so excited to vote for Donald Trump that they cast their ballots early, and that's an indicator of the enthusiasm behind the Trump campaign? Listen, I wish I had a crystal ball. I wish I could tell you, but we won't know until later today. What we do know is that the factors that go into this election, or the factors that are going to determine who wins or not, are Republican women. Are Republican women going to vote for Donald Trump? Historically, the answer has been yes. Registered Republican women have been very supportive of Trump. Will that be the case this time, or will it be different because of the messaging from the left to women specifically about Roe v. Wade? That's one factor. The second factor is young men. Early voting reflected that that young women voted in much higher percentages in early voting than young men did. So will young men turn out on election day today? Well, listen, if you are listening to this live stream right now and you are a young man, put in your AirPods, get in your car, and go vote. Go vote, because you are standing between the United States of America, me and my family, and everybody else watching and listening to this live stream, and a Kamala Harris presidency. If you turn out and vote, we will not have to suffer through Kamala Harris as presidency. For the love of God and country, go cast your ballot for Donald Trump. Again, put your AirPods in, put me on Bluetooth, go, and then tell me in the chat when you've done it. So, Republican women, young men, Christians, we had that little kerfuffle between pro-lifers and the Trump campaign a couple of months ago. A lot of Christians at the time said, well, I don't know if I want to vote for Donald Trump if he's not as pro-life as I am. I think that was, first of all, a normal reaction from Christians and pro-lifers because we are more pro-life than Donald Trump. At the same time, I think when emotions cooled, a lot of Christians and pro-lifers recognized that Donald Trump's positions on life issues are vastly superior to Kamala Harris's. Donald Trump was the most pro-life president of our lifetime. He overturned Roe v. Wade, for goodness sake. And Kamala Harris thinks it's okay to abort a big, healthy baby up through 9 months of pregnancy. They are not the same. And as Christians, as pro-lifers, it is incumbent on us to vote for the lesser of two evils when a candidate does not hold an ideal position on abortion, because it's our moral duty to preserve the good, in this case, the human lives that exist between Kamala Harris's evil positions and Donald Trump's better positions. So will Christians turn out to vote? Will they stay home? I am praying that Christians turn out to vote. And then, of course, the fourth factor is election cheating. Election cheating. And that remains perhaps the biggest unknown of all. We're going to talk about that in just a second, but I want to tell you guys something that has happened to me over the course of the last month. We had a sponsor join our show, Crowd Health. Crowd Health is an alternative to insurance. It's not health insurance, it's what I call assurance. Health insurance, as you know, is a really messed up and broken system. You can be paying out of your nose for healthcare premiums every month. And yet, even though you think you're covered and you're paying these premiums, when you have a health event, it's not covered. I think the number is something like 1 in 5 Obamacare insurance claims aren't paid out and you get stuck with a bill. And yet, as I said, you're still paying for that premium. It's unfair, it's broken. Well, Crowd Health joined our show as a sponsor because you and I are independent minded, critically thinking individuals who are questioning institutions that we previously trusted, institutions that are broken or corrupt. And Crowd Health is turning health insurance on its head. It's not insurance, it's crowdfunding. So the way that it works is it's super interesting. I got on the phone to talk to the CEO about Crowd Health because I wanted to know, is this thing the real deal? Does it actually work? So you sign up and you join what's called the crowd, hence the name Crowd Health. And when you have a health event, you submit the bill to the crowd and people pay it out. Help you pay for it. You are responsible for the first little bit, just like you would be in insurance with a deductible. And then the crowd funds and you pay the rest. And I asked the CEO, I said, does this actually work? Is this working for your members? And he said, yeah, we have, I think, something like 9 or 10,000 people that are a part of this. And it's working great. We're profitable. People are getting paid out. And I was so convinced by this phone call. You're not going to believe this. I quit my health insurance and signed up for Crowd Health. I am now part of the crowd because I don't want to be paying for health insurance that doesn't cover what I need to be covered. I don't want to be I don't want my bank broken to be part of a system that I don't even believe in. So I joined Crowd Health and I really recommend that you look into it for yourself and your family too. You can go to joincrowdhealth.com. You can use my promo code Liz and you get a great deal for the first 3 months. Like I said, when you look at how much you'll be paying per month for Crowd Health and you compare that to what you're paying now monthly for health insurance premiums, your mind's going to be blown. So go to joincrowdhealth.com and use my promo code Liz for a great deal for your first 3 months. I'm part of the crowd now. Please join us and ditch an institution that we can no longer trust. Okay, election integrity. Election integrity is a pretty serious issue. I don't need to tell you that. We have issues in Colorado that we're watching. We have issues in Michigan that we're watching. We have issues in Maricopa County. Let's talk about Maricopa County for a minute. In Maricopa County, this is one county in one state in the country. One county. And I want to emphasize how small one county is compared to the totality of votes for our entire country. And yet, Maricopa County, several weeks ago, we covered this on the show. You probably heard this. Maricopa County announced that they're not going to have election results tonight. In fact, it's not even going to be tomorrow. It's not going to be Thursday. It's not going to be Friday. It's not going to be by the end of the week. Maricopa County announced that it's going to take them between 10 and 13 days to get us election results, the tally of the votes from one county alone. And the only reason, ladies and gentlemen, that Maricopa County would make an announcement like that is if they are preparing to cheat. Because there is no incompetence so severe. And my bar for how incompetent I think government bureaucrats can be is super high. There is no incompetence that could possibly explain why it would take 2 weeks to count the votes in one county in one state in our country. I volunteered to pay for my own flight and my own hotel room, fly down myself to Maricopa County and conduct a hand counting of paper ballots, not once, but twice, and I would get it done before 10 to 13 days. Think about that. And then, of course, we hear last night that on the final day of voter registration in Maricopa County, that would have been October 7th, a third-party organization affiliated with Democrats dropped up to 90,000 voter registration forms at the county office. And most of them, not most of them, a hefty minority of them, 30 to 40,000 of them were completely illegible. They were damaged. They couldn't be salvaged. And the ones that could be salvaged, the 40 to 50,000 that could be salvaged, had names like Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. They were fraudulent. There were fraudulent ballots in these or fraudulent voter registrations in this voter registration dump from a third party organization affiliated with Democrats. So what do we think of this? Well, again, it's incumbent on us. This is our most powerful weapon today. This, a cell phone. Take a picture. Record conversations that you have. Submit it to us. Tag me on Twitter. Tag me on X. Tag me on Instagram. Upload it on YouTube. Send it to us. Send it to us. This is going to be our greatest bulwark against election integrity. And listen, kudos to Laura Trump and the RNC for being prepared. There are a lot of good lawyers, some of whom I know personally, who are prepared. They're watching with eagle eyes and they're prepared for what is going to happen over the next few days. Now, let's get to predictions here for a second. What do we think is going to happen? Who do you think is going to be president? Is Donald Trump going to win? Is Kamala Harris going to pull this off? What's going to happen tonight? By the way, as we watch all of these election results come in tonight, we're going to be live here at the Blaze. It's going to be me. It's going to be Glenn Beck. It's going to be Megyn Kelly. It's going to be Steve Deace. It's going to be Ali Stuckey. It's going to be all kinds. Sarah Gonzalez. It's going to be all kinds of we're just going to sit here and watch this stuff and analyze it and make sure that everything is being reported properly. I encourage you to join us. You can go to blazeelection.com/Liz. We are offering our biggest discount yet. It's $47 off of an annual subscription. And listen, it's not just for tonight. You can watch the stuff tonight for free. You can watch it on X. You can watch it on YouTube. You don't have to be a subscriber to join us for the coverage tonight. But I got to tell you, as someone who talks about topics that the deep state doesn't like, I talk about transgenderism. I talk about critical race theory. I talk about the COVID jab. I talk about globalist elites like the World Economic Forum and Bill Gates. I talk about cultural Marxism and the institutions that have been captured by Marxists in our country. This assault, especially on our children that we see. They don't like me. They censor me. And I confess to you that I fear what will happen to this show if Kamala Harris wins. And so I implore you, so that we can continue, no matter who the president is, no matter what happens, please become a subscriber. Go to blazeelection.com/Liz. Subscribe. You'll get all kinds of behind the scenes content from all the different shows, not just mine, the whole cadre of Blaze TV. You're going to love it. But it's also a bulwark against being totally silenced, censored, and canceled by the radical left. That is blazeelection.com/Liz. What do I think is going to happen? Guys, drop your predictions. Vicky says, my hope is for Trump, too big to rig. Big Caesar says, I fear a repeat of 2020. Kelly says, no way will the majority of legal American registered voters vote for Kamala Harris. Well, I hope you're right. My producer, Tim, has been right in 2016 and 2020. He predicted both elections correctly. He predicted in 2016 that Trump would win. He predicted in 2020 that Trump would lose, that Biden would win, and he thinks that Donald Trump will win today. He's very optimistic. He's shaking his head in the control room now. He's shaking his MAGA hat. Oh, guys, I got to show you this, by the way, before I get to my prediction. Do you see this? I'd put this on, but I don't want to mess up my hair. Call me vain, if you will, but later tonight during the election stream, as the results come in, like, we'll see. We'll bring this out. If we're winning, it looks like we're going to win, we'll be wearing this hat. This is the coolest hat. Trump Vance 24. This is Blaze merch. I actually was I'm gonna tell you something behind the scenes. I was actually just made aware of this today, and I wish that I'd known about it sooner, because this new merch on our website is actually like the coolest Trump merch that I've seen. It is the website, and you're gonna get ready. Type this down because you're probably gonna think it's funny, but mega or death 2024.com. Mega or death 2024.com, and let me know what your favorite piece is. I think there's a jean jacket on there that I was like, how did I not know about this? Plus this hat. Coolest hat ever. And this hat's gonna last probably 2 hours in my hand before my husband takes it from me, because I guarantee to you that he's gonna like it. This is another one. Mega or death. Look at this one. This one's subtle. You could wear this one in public even if you didn't want to make a big statement. And that's, I dig that. Dig that. Mega or death 2024.com. We can even put that in the comments, Tim, if you can drop that in the comments so that people can click it. Yeah, the black one. Lemo says the black one. That's cool, right? I thought it was cool too. They did a good job. A really good job. Okay, so what do I think is going to happen? I don't know if I fully agree with Tim, and I'm not sure it's because I think that Tim is wrong or it's because I am trying to hedge my expectations because it's gonna be so devastating if Kamala Harris wins. I think Trump can pull this off. I think if this is a free and fair election, I think Trump can win. There is no way that the enthusiasm behind Trump, and not just the enthusiasm of us, I mean, we are the important ones because we are the voters, but think about the public figures who are not in politics, who have risked their reputation to align themselves with Trump, even though they are not traditionally Republicans. This unity team of RFK Jr., did you ever think that one of the Kennedys would align with Trump and that Mega would have such open arms saying, "Yes, let's marry, make America great again with Make America Healthy Again." All of these wonderful, crunchy moms advocating for the health of their families are now part of Mega. Who would ever have thought that? And they're excited to be here. They're posting about it online. RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard left the Democrat Party because she dared to criticize forever wars, and the warmongers in the Democratic Party were like, "See ya." Now she's part of Team Trump. We have Nicole Shanahan, the wife, the former wife, I guess she's the ex-wife of the founder of Google. Could you get more left-wing than that? And now she voted for Trump. She actually went to a Tucker Carlson tour event, a live event, filled out her ballot on stage, a first-time Trump voter. Elon Musk has done more than anybody besides Donald Trump himself to win this election. He has risked his own money, his reputation, his livelihood. The Democrats, for goodness sake, are threatening to deport him because of some alleged, probably false accusation that he worked in the United States before he had the proper visa way back in the day. This accusation coming from the party that lets up to 2 million illegal aliens cross our border every year and does nothing to deport them, even if they assault Americans, rape and murder women. And then Joe Rogan last night endorses Trump, says, yes, this is an endorsement of Donald Trump. If Donald Trump does not win this election, then I don't know if this might be our final election. And again, you're going to say, Liz, that's an awfully black-pilled thing to say. And maybe it is. But it's also a recognition of how powerful this unity team is. Think about all these different people and all their different belief systems understanding that Kamala Harris is bad for us. That when Donald Trump was president, everybody was better off. It didn't matter if you were a man, if you were a woman, if you were black, if you were white, if you were Hispanic, if you were rich, if you were poor, everybody was better off. This is what I said last night. You know how 2 weeks ago I had that debate with Cenk from the Young Turks? A lot of you I know watched that or watched the clips of it after, but he invited me on his show to debate whether Donald Trump would be better as president. Should you cast your vote for Donald Trump or should you cast your vote for Kamala Harris? And it was only towards the end of our debate that we really got into why someone would want to vote for Donald Trump if they weren't traditionally Republican. And what I said was this: Kamala Harris has brought us to the brink of nuclear war with Russia by her warmongering in Ukraine. Not many people know this, but Kamala Harris started the war in Ukraine because she went to Europe and she invited NATO into Ukraine, which was a red line for Vladimir Putin, invited Ukraine into NATO. 2 days later, Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine. Since then, Kamala Harris and her boss have spent $175 billion of American money in that war. And I don't even want to say taxpayer money because they're printing it, which is the cause of the inflation that you and I are suffering from. We're paying 46% more for gas, 22% more for groceries, 30% more for electricity. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris looks us in the eye and gaslights us. She says, this is a good economy. Wages are up under the Biden-Harris administration. Yes, wages are up, but they're not up as much as inflation is up. So if you started here at the Biden-Harris administration and wages moved up, yep, technically that's true. Inflation moved up more. So actually your wages are worth less than they were when you were making less money. Kamala Harris is lying to you. Lying to you. Meanwhile, at the southern border, she's the border czar. Congress actually acknowledged the day that Joe Biden gave the border to Kamala Harris as a portfolio project. There's this denial that happens among the left when they say a vice president isn't in charge of anything. They don't really do anything. They're just a ceremonial role. Well, that's not entirely true because presidents give vice presidents portfolio projects to be in charge of. And that's what Joe Biden did to Kamala Harris. And when Joe Biden made Kamala Harris the border czar, Congress acknowledged this in a formal resolution in order to be able to hold her accountable. So, what she should be held accountable for is up to 2 million illegal aliens crossing our borders, over 600,000 aliens with criminal histories roaming free in our country, 325,000 migrant children who are lost to the US government after they've been used in recycling rings in order to make the aliens crossing the border eligible for catch and release. Fentanyl, 70,000 Americans die of fentanyl overdose every year. The amount of fentanyl that has been captured crossing our border just in the space of 1 year is enough to kill every single American 14 times over. 14 times over. That doesn't even take into account the gotaways. 150 terrorists affiliated with ISIS were captured, and that does, or were not captured, I should say, were not captured and are roaming free in our cities. Okay. Tim's bringing up a quote from Kamala Harris. What is this? Something that's happening now? This is real time, folks. Oh, this is okay. This is not from today. This is when Joe Biden announced, for anybody who has any shred of doubt whether Kamala Harris was put in charge of the border by Joe Biden. This is Joe Biden making that announcement himself. You can see this on the screen. Well, look at that. Look at that. This is the declaration of Joe Biden. Madam Vice President, thank you. I gave you a tough job, Joe Biden said, and you're smiling, but there's no one better capable of trying to organize this for us. Kamala Harris is responsible. It actually should be a no-brainer voting for Donald Trump. A no-brainer. Because none of this is hypothetical. Oftentimes in an election, we have candidates who have not been in the White House before. And so we're like, well, are they just saying what we want, what they think we want to hear? Will they actually follow through on their promises? Or are they just being grifty politicians? That is not the situation today. The situation today is we know exactly what Donald Trump is going to be. He's going to be nothing of what the left accuses him. Not a dictator, not an authoritarian, not racist, not a Nazi, not xenophobic. None of those insults. We know this for a fact because he's already been president. And when he was president, we were better off. I told Jank when I was debating him that it's only the privileged class who can vote for Kamala Harris because most Americans are working hard to provide for their families and make a living and pay their bills. And they can't afford to cast a self-destructive vote for Kamala Harris. Because if you cast your vote for Kamala Harris, your life will be more expensive, more dangerous. And not everyone has the luxury of making a deliberate choice to have your life cost more and be more perilous. It's only the privileged class that can vote for Kamala Harris. And I think, I hope, I pray that the majority of Americans recognize that today. Tut says, I just voted red across the board and voted no on Proposition 1 in New York. Sharon says, we love President Trump. W. German says, problems in Pennsylvania with machines. This is what you get, Pennsylvania, when you... Okay, we're not going to talk about... when you buy your voting machines online is the essence of that comment. I'm looking at your guys' comments right now. David says the only rising wages are the thousands of government jobs, not manufacturing or middle class. That's a great point because whenever the Biden administration, Kamala Harris, brag about creating jobs, she's not actually talking about private sector jobs. She's talking about bloating the federal government. So yes, good job, Kamala Harris, on hiring more deep state slimy creatures. That's exactly what the American people want to hear. Exactly. Austin said voted for Trump in Kentucky this morning. Cody says howdy from Georgia. Cody, I hope that's howdy from the voting booth. I hope you cast your vote down there. Dan says Trump 2024. Listen. 70s Tunes says this veteran voted straight Republican ticket. A Kansas City Royals fan from Nebraska said, I voted 2 hours ago with no problem. We use paper ballots. We don't use machines. And no one has signed in for me and tried to vote in my name because we require IDs and they check signatures. Well, You are lucky to live in a state where that is the case. JKR says, "Are you on into the night, Liz?" Yes. Yes. But I think I started talking about this before. We are going to be live tonight here in the Blaze studios. It's going to be Glenn Beck. It's going to be Megan Kelly. It's going to be Steve Dace. It's going to be me. It's going to be Ali Stuckey. It's going to be Stu. It's going to be Sarah Gonzalez. It's going to be everybody here at the Blaze. And that starts at 5 p.m. Central, which is 6 p.m. Eastern. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on X. You can go to blazetv.com. You can go to blazeelection.com/Liz if you want to become a subscriber and use my promo code. It's our biggest discount ever because let me just say, when you are in independent media, we've taken a risk. We've made a choice that we are going to reject the traditional path. We're not going to be on the cable news channels that already exist. We're not going to be on network TV. We are going to do something that makes us the underdog. We're fighting against the current, and we are under fire all the time because the traditional legacy corporate media does not want competition. They want to have a monopoly on your minds, essentially. They want to think that the only thing that you know is what they tell you. They want to be able to manipulate you. So whenever there's an election and the person on the ballot, in this case Kamala Harris, understands the importance of media propaganda, then we are also on the line at an independent media organization like Blaze Media, because Kamala Harris should know better than anybody else how powerful media propaganda is. Think about back in 2019 when Kamala Harris was running in the Democrat primary against Joe Biden. She only got 3% of her own party vote in the primary. She dropped out before Iowa. To call her one of the most disliked Democrat politicians in that primary would be the understatement of the year. And then Joe Biden picked her as vice presidential running mate, not because she was good at campaigning, not because she was smart. He picked her because he needed her two token characteristics that she has to offer. He needed a black woman because she's black and because she's a woman. That's it. Kamala Harris was not chosen as Joe Biden's vice president because she was qualified. She was chosen because Joe Biden wanted to virtue signal and be like, "Oh, look, my running mate is a black woman." Even in the White House as vice president, Kamala Harris did not have a good reputation. Democrats did not like her, do not like her, until that fateful day in July of 2024 when a coup was staged against Joe Biden. The Democrats were desperate because Donald Trump had just been targeted for assassination. And the country understood that the reason Donald Trump was targeted for assassination, that a sniper fired a bullet that hit Donald Trump in the head, a fraction of an inch from killing him. The reason that that hatred existed was because of media propaganda, lying to the American people, fomenting rage in people and fear, telling them, better watch out. Trump is going to oppress you. He's going to obliterate you. He's going to genocide you. He's a tyrant and a dictator and an authoritarian, and democracy's on the line. And if you're a marginalized person, then he's going to come after you. And what happened when the media repeated these lies over and over and over and over for 8, 9, 10 years is some people fell for that, fell prey to that. And that caused the assassination attempt against Donald Trump. Because that shooter believed what the media was telling him. And so the Democrats had to do something radical. They forced Joe Biden, behind the scenes, Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi and Kamala Harris staged a coup against Joe Biden, forcing him to step down. And they undemocratically installed Kamala Harris as their Democrat nominee for president instead. But she's still not popular, so what to do? Well, they knew exactly what to do. They turned to the same media propagandists that had indoctrinated the left for the last 10 years, and they said, make Kamala Harris popular. And so the media began to lie. They lied about Kamala Harris's personal life. They lied about her political history. They lied about her husband. They lied about everything that Kamala Harris is responsible for after being vice president in the Biden administration. And what happened? Well, their media propaganda was successful to a certain extent. Kamala Harris is now vastly more popular than she was in July. And so Kamala Harris understands better than any other politician the power of the propaganda machine that is the mainstream media. She understands that you and I sitting here together on this live stream, independently speaking, no one's telling me what to say. No one's controlling my thoughts. No one's no one's telling me to be a propagandist. We are watching what's happening in the election. We are a voice against tyranny. And so we are a threat to Kamala Harris's campaign and her agenda, and God forbid, her presidency. So there's a lot on the line for our country. There's a lot on the line for our families. There's a lot on the line for what's to come. As I said at the beginning of this live stream, this is one of those moments that we know our country is never going to be the same after today. Go vote. Go cast your ballot. I'm not blackpilled about this election. There's just the reality of what we're facing today is there's a lot on the line. There's a lot on the line, but the choice should be easy between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. Sarah says they all hated Kamala until they were told to love her. Cult, cult, cult. Yes, that's exactly right. Shannon says, I voted today for the side that would die for their children, regardless of what stage of life that those children are in. Hit says, I was the very first vote in my town this morning. Donald says, Christ is King, Lord of Lords. Pray for mercy from the God of Israel. Amen to that. Guys, I said at the beginning, I had a hard time sleeping last night. It caught me off guard because I'm not someone that struggles with insomnia, but the weight of what is happening today got to me. And so I prayed. I prayed the night away. I prayed that God would have mercy on our nation because if you look objectively at what's happening in our nation, this is not Republicans and Democrats just squabbling over stupid political nuances in Washington, D.C. This is spiritual warfare. We are in a battle of good versus evil, and you and I are privileged to be able to participate. Our votes, our armor, our weapons in this spiritual warfare. Please, please don't sit out. Unless, of course, you think that you should vote for Kamala Harris and then by all means, stay home. Please go out and cast your vote for Donald Trump. Take a video of yourself, take a picture of your ballot, post it on social media, tag me. I want to be reposting what you guys are seeing, whether you see something shady, whether you're casting your vote for Donald Trump, whether you have convinced your family and your friends to vote. I want to see it. I want to see it. Sarah says, if God can find 10 righteous people, a nation has a chance of being saved. Well, that's from the Bible right there. That is from the Bible right there. Stephen says it absolutely is spiritual warfare. Hit says, pray that God gives us the leaders we need and not those we deserve. It is humbling, isn't it, to see the state of our nation and to understand that in order for Donald Trump to win, that God must extend incredible mercy given how sinful our nation has become and how we have allowed it. Oh, JKR says, Liz, what's your surprise of the night prediction wise? My surprise of the night prediction wise. Oh, I gotta look at Pennsylvania, man. I gotta point to Pennsylvania and say, I think, can Donald Trump pull that off in Pennsylvania? If there is a critical swing state that Donald Trump can pull off, I think it might be Pennsylvania. I think it might be Pennsylvania. Listen, tomorrow on the show, we're gonna talk about the census, the 2020 census, and how that has impacted the electoral vote count and how that might impact the outcome of the election. If it is a neck and neck election, if Kamala Harris is 2 points ahead of Donald Trump in the overall electoral count, 270 to 268, then Donald Trump might have a case, a legal case that the 2020 census, which was incorrectly done, and the Census Bureau admitted that, he might have a case that because the Census Bureau conducted the census incorrectly and admitted that, but still used those faulty numbers to apportion electoral votes to different states, he might have a case that that the current electoral tally for each state should be overruled by the Supreme Court. We will talk about that in more detail tomorrow. But again, go to blazeelection.com/Liz. Join us. Join us tonight. It's either going to be the best day or the worst day, but let's spend it together. We'll be live in just a couple hours now. What is that? That's less than 4 hours. T-minus 4 hours. Do you hear the suspense, the trepidation, the excitement? Don't forget to get your hat. Megaordeath2024.com. You're gonna love this stuff. You're gonna love this stuff. It really is good stuff. It's really unique looking. A lot of mega gear looks the same to me, which is still fine. I still like to show my support, but this is really unique stuff that's super cool. I think you're gonna like it. Okay, make sure you subscribe to YouTube. I mean, you're here watching on YouTube, so hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so I can notify you every time we go live. We're probably going to have some special content for you over the next couple days, depending on what happens. So you don't want to miss that. Go to Spotify as well and subscribe so that you can listen to audio when you're in your car, when you're commuting, when you're taking care of the kids and you have it in your ear. You want to listen to it on audio versus video. Hit up Spotify for that. Just search Liz Wheeler Show and subscribe over there. Make sure you sign up for my newsletter as well. We have every day that we don't have a show, we have a newsletter. So go to lizwheelernewsletter.com and drop your email if you're not already a part of that. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I'm Liz Wheeler. This is the Liz Wheeler Show.